the section, there was 3 verses preceding the one we're going to discuss is text 32, 33, 34. And I'll just go back further besides the last few verses. Back further is Queen Kunti is a pure devotee. The Pandavas are eternal associates of Krishna. That I've read from our acharyas multiple times, multiple places. It would make sense that Kunti is also an eternal associate, not like a post, but she's eternal associate. But I haven't been able to find anything that says that explicitly, but it would make sense. And she's very, very qualified, and one of the qualifications of anyone very, very qualified is they're very humble. And in the course of speaking to Krishna, she says things that are self-deprecating. And that's confusing to some people. But it shouldn't be, because it's a manifestation of her humility. We spend a fair amount of time discussing. Amrita Kelly, come sit over here. You can't see over there. And those of you that came late, you want to come sit over here? Or you'd rather not see? There's lots of space. Lots of space. Lots of space. You can see over there? Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. Humble. And rather than retelling everything that she has said thus far, she compares herself to qualified people and says, I'm not qualified like those qualified people, and they can't understand you, so how can I understand you? How can us women folk understand you? But she then goes on to disclose how much she understands him. And how does she understand him? Because disclosure, that is, Krishna discloses himself to those who are very dear to him, and she's obviously very dear to him. And so she understands so many things. There's a large section where she goes back and forth with Upanishadic-like contradictions. He's inside everything, he's outside of everything at the same time. And so forth and so on. So those are Upanishadic statements. She says she doesn't understand, but then she goes on to explain how she does understand. And the reconciliation is his inconceivable potencies. Say it 2 different ways. Jiva Goswami writes in Bhagavat Sandarbha, one of the early verses in Bhagavat Sandarbha, there's no question of understanding Bhagavan without the acceptance that he has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Say it the other way. By accepting that Bhagavan has unlimited and inconceivable potencies, then it's understandable that he can do anything. There's nothing that he can't do. He can do anything because he has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. And when he does inconceivable things, it's because of his unlimited, and he's just mixing his potencies. He's having fun. He's enjoying, and his enjoyment specifically is with his devotees, with those that have a heart that's inclined to his pleasure. He finds ways through moving his potencies this way, that way, to bring happiness to his devotees. And there's many, many things. So the last section was, is he partial or impartial? Because by external appearance of things, he's partial. But he's not partial. And she explains why he's not partial. It's really nice. Just as the sun, it's very simple, just as the sun shines everywhere, and according to the receiver of the sunshine, the effect is different. But it's not the sun is favorable over here and unfavorable over there. Without all the examples, they're nice examples. The sun is not partial. Krishna is not partial. How that mercifulness and all the other potencies of Krishna are received by someone is going to be different because the receivers are different, but the merciful Krishna is not different. He's not partial, although it looks like he's partial. And it would make sense, as Prabhupada would sometimes say, the reciprocation of loving affection is not partial. It's natural. But it looks partial. So there's 3 verses in different ways discussing that topic. And now we're going to go on, hopefully. If technology works, and it doesn't always work, to verse 32. And those of you that haven't been through this before, we're going to hear Sri Rupa singing with her friends in the chorus, and some music in the background. And just hand me the mic. Thanks. And a little advice. Before the chorus goes, you have to pause, because otherwise you mess up. And then she'll sing again, then the chorus goes, but you have to pause, because otherwise you mess up. If it gets necessary, I'll remind you. And let's see if it works. Yes, it works. Ahor ajam jatam Panyasakasha kirtaye Yada priyasyan vayaye Tichida urajam jatam Yashloka kirtaye Yada priyasyan vayaye Pause. So this is a nice painting. It's a painting of the name-giving ceremony for both Balaram and Krishna. There's Nanda with Gargamuni, and there should be a cow in the background, but I don't see the cow. But that's what the name-giving ceremony. So, giving the names of the unborn who is born. That was one of the Upanishadic double talk kind of things. You who are unborn are born. Bewildering to me. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings. And others say He is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya Hills. So we've all heard this one before. The Malaya Chandan. It's right there in the last line. So Chandan can grow anywhere, but because it's historically a place where Chandan is cultivated, and as nice Chandan, so is Malaya Chandan. So the hills, the Malaya Hills, become celebrated because of the Chandan there. So otherwise we wouldn't know so much about Chandan. Similarly, what would we know about King Yadu? Just another name in a history book. But Krishna is honoring him. So in the Yadu and Bhoja and Andaka dynasties, the Yadu dynasty is celebrated because he's a dear devotee. So Krishna appeared in his dynasty to bring honor and glory and recognition to Yadu. So pious kings, for the glorification of pious kings. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, there are many opinions about the cause of your appearance. You recognize who these personalities are. Yudhishthira sitting next to Draupadi and the four brothers. We know who the four brothers are. The one with the big club? Bhima. And kneeling, that's Arjuna, and Nakul and Sahadev behind with their guarding spears. Royal family. Punya Shloka here refers to Yudhishthira, since he was famous by that name at that time. Punya Shloka. And other names of Krishna like Yadava, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, because he was in this Yadu dynasty. So different names of Krishna celebrating the dynasty in which he appeared. Nice painting. You're familiar with the painting. It's Narada Muni paying a visit to Dwarka and wanting to receive Krishna's association. What he saw was mind-boggling. He saw Krishna in each and every palace simultaneously, doing different things simultaneously, and even further, there are different times of day simultaneously. Got that? Some place it was morning, some place it was evening, some place it was midday, some things, and doing different things. So he was pleased to see the potencies of Krishna on display in this way, and palaces and palaces and palaces. Here's a nice Dwarka painting. There's Dwarka city in the background. And here's another nice painting, ancient Dwarka. Lord Sri Krishna is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya Hills. So here's a photograph of the Malaya Hills and sandalwood trees. Now the hills look like any other hills, but Krishna is like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya Hills, and so Malaya Chandan has become celebrated. Or Krishna as the chariot driver of Arjuna, Parthasarathi. And the others with whom Krishna associated, Nanda and Yashoda, there's that same painting. See the cows in the background? They got cropped out of the other photo. Oh, there they are. Then there are other persons that say other reasons why Krishna appeared.
Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Vyagrat Ajastvamasya Chimaya Aya Chasturadrisham Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Vyagrat Ajastvamasya Chimaya
Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Now, this is a Bhagavad Gita sloka, and she's just saying it in her own words aside from the Bhagavad Gita sloka. In previous sections of her prayers, she has very high regard for Devaki, naturally. I mean, Kunti was the mother of the Pandavas, and Devaki was the mother of Krishna. So how fortunate she feels to have been the mother of Krishna's eternal associates, what to speak of Devaki. And then there's some comparison how the good fortune of Devaki, and even greater is the good fortune of Vasudeva. But you could say it the other way too. But she has affection. They're so closely connected. Vasudeva is her brother. Right? Yes or no? Yes. So, she has affection for her brother, but she has affection for her brother not just because of the bodily connection of brother-sister. She has affection for her brother because of the intimate relation and the fantastic opportunity he had for being the father. There's in chapter 85 of Canto 10, it comes right after chapter 84. And chapter 83 and 84 of Canto 10 is the description of the solar eclipse. And on the occasion of solar eclipse, it was tradition, custom, and everyone did it. From different places, the whole Yadu clan, and all the uncles and cousins and everybody, and all the Brijbasis, and all the queens, and all everybody went to Kurukshetra to have a festival in honor of the solar eclipse. And while they were there, it's really nice, really nice. For the first time, Draupadi is meeting the queens, and she wants to hear from the queens a retelling of the earlier chapters of the 10th canto of how they became Krishna's queens. And one of the queens represents the 16,100 princesses that were kidnapped by Narakasura, and then each of the other ones are there. So there's this like kumbaya, this whole big exchange. Nanda meets Vasudeva, Devaki meets Yashoda, and there's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful celebration and experience for all of them. And one of the things that happened, of the many things that happened, is both Vasudeva and Devaki had an opportunity to meet sages, because along with the Yadu dynasty, there are many, 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 many sages. I mean, big names, a cast of great celebrities amongst the sages. And they, Vasudeva and Devaki, hearing from the sages understood more clearly exactly who their son is. Because they, like Kunti, they have some mix. In Rupa Goswami's writings, it's mixture of rasas. She, Devaki, has the affection of mother. And Vasudeva has the affection of father. But now they heard the glories. So in the beginning of chapter 85, now they're back in Dwarka, the festival at Kurukshetra is over. And Vasudeva with Devaki have a little private time with Krishna. And Vasudeva, the first half of the chapter, Vasudeva speaks the glories of the personality of Godhead in very clear, glowing, strong terms. But he's his son. But he's now moved more towards the side of majesty thanks to the sages. And Krishna replies, saying, everything you said is correct. He's acknowledging in various, high language. And then it's Devaki's turn. And Devaki, during the course of being with the sages, she had heard that Krishna brought back the son of Sandipani Muni from the court of Yamaraj. And she wants to know, can you bring back my 6 sons? So she's talking to her son, the younger, the 8th child out of the first 6 that just were killed by Kamsa. Can you bring them back? Like you did for Sandipani Muni? So it's just, Krishna's honoring Vasudeva and Devaki in this way, appearing as their child, but here he shows his forearm form, and then after the prayers they offer, Devaki suggests, requests Vishnu to form a child, to assume a childlike form, because she has motherly affection. She wants to see him not like this. It's specifically described by our acharyas when Krishna brings back the 6 sons by Krishna's arrangement. Because of Mother Jasoda's affection, they assume small children forms, although many years have passed. But they assume small children forms because that's the affection that she had for her small children. Jiva Goswami writes in his commentary that before Vasudeva took Krishna to the other side of the river Jamuna, she breastfed him because he might get hungry. And because Krishna had breastfed from Devaki, when the 6 sons breastfed from Devaki coming back from the dead, there's a whole story about that happened, they also became fully purified because Krishna had already taken milk from Devaki, like Mahaprasadam or something. So Krishna does these things, although he's unborn. He does these things out of affection for his devotees. Here's a nice chart. Here's Prishnigarbha, Upendra, and Krishna. Prishnigarbha was the son of Sutapa and Prishni. This is what Krishna said, 3 times I've appeared, now I'm appearing for the 3rd time. Upendra, or Vamana, the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. So these are our personalities who the parents are at the bottom, but in their previous lives, Vasudeva and Devaki were these 2 others. interesting detail, the Prishnigarbha, who is the son of Sutapa and Prishni, is the same name as the form of Vishnu that showed himself to Dhruva Maharaj. He was Prishnigarbha. There's the scriptural reference for it. And then Vamana, or Upendra, appeared as the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. And now he's appearing as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, to reciprocate their loving, pure devotional loving affection. And then others have some other opinion. Here's another opinion. Now here's a third opinion. Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble, which is true. All of them are true. Nice painting of Brahma appearing from the lotus stem of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, cover of Brahma Samhita book. Narayana as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, without contact with Lakshmi ji, begot Brahma. And another painting of the same. Yes, there's another painting of the same. And another painting of the same. And another painting that doesn't have the text with it, but there's Brahma with Mother Earth in the form of a cow and other various demigods approaching the shore of the milk ocean. We know it's the milk ocean because there's fish swimming around in the milk ocean. And then there's Vishnu, who's reclining on Anantashesh with Garuda by his side and Lakshmi at his feet, and they're offering their prayers. And another nice, very nice ISKCON painting, BBT painting, there's Sweta Dweep. And Sweta Dweep is the abode of Kshirodakshay Vishnu. So Kshirodakshay Vishnu appears in the Kshirodak ocean. And this is the place where they went. It's the Vaikuntha planet, or spiritual planet within the universe, the abode of Lord Vishnu within the universe. That's where they went. Demigods went there, offered their Purusha Sukta prayers. Vishnu confirmed, I will appear. Then there's another opinion.
Avismin Vishamanana Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Savana Smarana Hani Shantiti Tikshana Avismin Vishamanana Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Savana Smarana Hani Avis Asmin Prishamanana Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Savana Smarana Hani Shantiti Kechana Asmin Prishamanana Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Savana Smarana Hani
And yet others say that you appeared to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. The painting is a part of a painting. The rest of it is cut off, but it's the abode of Vaikuntha, Narayana in his abode of Vaikuntha, showing how he's being worshipped by musicians and persons offering prayers, and fanned, and goddess Lakshmi at his lotus feet, and so forth and so on. From this position of the Vaikuntha realm, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has the capacity to bring the light of transcendental knowledge into the life of the souls in this dark world, because it's very simple. The suffering, the root cause of suffering, is ignorance. And Vishnu doesn't like, Narayana doesn't like, Krishna doesn't like, the Supreme Lord doesn't like, but he doesn't interfere. However, from time to time, he doesn't exactly interfere, but when circumstances like being called upon by Brahma and others to relieve the burden of the earth, he comes and he gives transcendental teachings. It's not that the transcendental teachings weren't available before. He just, by his presence, he makes them felt and received. This is Canto 1, Chapter 8. And the first canto, Prabhupada said more than once, the first canto contains everything that we need to go back to Godhead. That's why, he brought it with him, Canto 1, in 3 parts. And he wanted to make the entire Srimad Bhagavatam translated for many reasons. But at the same time, the foundation is, that's why I like these sections, is everything is here. It can be expanded, and it is expanded in other sections of the Bhagavatam, but everything, the foundational, essential message is in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we can take that message of Srimad Bhagavatam and somehow, just by hearing, chanting, remembering, assimilating, you carry that message of Srimad Bhagavatam with you, you're protected from the darkness of ignorance. You're protected from the influences of the age of Kali. It's not like winter doesn't get cold or summer doesn't get hot. There's dualities of material existence, and sometimes there's honor and sometimes there's dishonor, and sometimes. The duality thing is going to go on, and the sense perception is going to go on, but where your consciousness is going to be different. Just from this very, very simple, very, very simple practice or process of hearing. And hearing, Hari Katha, Krishna Katha, because that's what Kunti's prayers are. One after the next, after the next. She's very Krishna conscious, and after the next, and after the next. And by hearing again and again, one becomes relieved of material existence, because consciousness of Hari becomes manifest in its place. It's very nice. And so material pangs become diminished and eventually gone. This doesn't mean duality is gone, but the pangs of duality are gone, and one gains liberation. So he comes. Another little sharing, taking the message from Canto 1, Chapter 8, again going over to Canto 10. Very nice section in the story of Vritrasura. There's a section in Canto 10, Chapter 88, where a question is raised that goes back to something that's discussed from the time of the Rajasuya Yajna, when Yudhisthira completed the sacrifices, the Ashwamedha Yajnas, etc., for the Rajasuya Yajna. It's not in the Bhagavatam, but reference is made in the Bhagavatam to another Purana, where he asks Krishna, why is it that people who worship you are seen to be not so wealthy compared to those who are worshippers of Lord Shiva and the demigods? Could you explain? It's a really nice question. It's not always like that. Just for example, Yudhisthira Maharaj, we discussed this in the earlier parts of Kunti's prayers. He was fabulously wealthy. According to the Bhagavatam, his opulence surpassed even the imagination of the residents of heaven. And Ambarish Maharaj, his opulence was beyond imagination. He was a king, but his opulence was so substantial. And how did Yudhisthira get that opulence? How does anybody get anything? He got it from Krishna. There's a really nice section in Mahabharata. I'm just diverging a little bit, but it's to illustrate the point. In Mahabharata, the circumstance was, at one point, Yudhisthira was given Indraprastha as a place to stay, and it was just a forest. But by Krishna's influence, it became opulent, more opulent, mega opulent, etc., 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 etc. And Yudhisthira developed a desire to perform Rajasuya Yajna, which means to establish his supremacy over all other kings, the emperor of all kings. There was a requirement, so he sent a messenger, you know this, he sent a messenger, Yudhisthira sent a messenger to Dwarka, inviting Krishna to come and to preside over the Rajasuya Yajna, so he would be anointed the emperor of the world. So Krishna was considering. At the same time, another messenger came. The messenger from the kings who were imprisoned by Jarasandha. Help! We're your devotees and we're imprisoned by Jarasandha. Help! So what did Krishna do? He turned to Uddhava. What should I do? As if he didn't know. But he was giving Uddhava some service. And Uddhava said, first you should liberate the kings, you should finish Jarasandha, because one of the rules of the Rajasuya Yajna is all other kings should submit to the emperor before the Rajasuya is done. And if they don't submit, they have to be dealt with. So you have to eliminate Jarasandha first, and then the Rajasuya, in that sequence. Krishna said, very good. Let's go get Jarasandha. And they got Jarasandha. And then this proclamation was made. And even Shishupal, and everybody and everybody and everybody and everybody and everybody, Duryodhana, came and offered their tribute to Yudhisthira as the emperor, and the Rajasuya was done. It was performed. Duryodhana was envious. And he confided in Shakuni. Who's Shakuni? Gandhari's brother. Gandhari, brother. Shakuni, he's a bad guy. He's the guy with the dice and the whole thing. So Shakuni consoled Duryodhana. Duryodhana, you like their opulence? It's yours. Here's how. I've got a big army. You've got this one, that one, the other one, the other one, the other one. They'll be with you. Declare war. And their opulence, that's the opulence of Yudhisthira, is yours. He liked the idea. Too much he liked the idea. Shakuni, the seed of dissension. Because the opulence, Yudhisthira's opulence went from nothing to opulence surpassing the imagination of the rulers in heaven. Where did it come from? From Krishna. Now, Krishna doesn't give opulence liberally, but he gave opulence to Yudhisthira because he could handle it. He didn't misuse it. And it's not like that's the only criterion. Krishna someone can handle opulence and he doesn't give it to them. Some persons can handle it and he gives it to them. Without examples. Sudama Brahman, nice example. He can handle it. Didn't go to his head. He continued living as a simple Brahmana, even in a big palace. Slept on the floor and ate simply, and his wife could have a nice palace. It was okay. There's a relationship between the personality of Godhead and, in this case, Yudhisthira. That for most, the main gift that Vishnu or Krishna or avatars give is they give knowledge that brings detachment, that awakens, at least potentially awakens bhakti, and then one gets transcendental liberation, not simply the negation kind. That's why Krishna comes. Rejuvenating by hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on. So the pangs of material existence are diminished, and they may take advantage and gain liberation. Liberation meaning the life of unalloyed devotion. Krishna comes for that purpose. There's a very nice, I'll just add, really nice. In contrast with what Bhaktisiddhanta calls the gift-giving demigods, Lord Vishnu doesn't liberally do that. Because when persons get gifts, they may become intoxicated by the gift, by the fruits of piety, and then become indulgent in the fruits of piety. It's one of the, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's one of the obstacles on the path of bhakti is becoming successful in devotional service. Because one may get proud. You get some position, some title, some something. And, Krishna's position gets diminished and one becomes indulgent in the fruits of piety, the fruits of nicely rendered devotional service. It's not, okay, therefore I shouldn't do pious work and I shouldn't do nice devotional service. But there's risk on the royal road. One has to be very careful. And the point I wanted to make is, with Vishnu or Narayana or Krishna, when one commits to him, I surrender unto you, Krishna commits to that devotee. And it's not that, for example, you engage in namabas. What's namabas? It's a shadow of the holy name. That's what we do mostly. And not Shuddhana, but namabas, mostly. And it has the power to completely take away the prarabdha karma, the fruits of past sins. Yes? That's what our scriptures teach us. Now, in this 10th canto explanation, it's not instantly, but rather it's the vigilance of Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayan or Lord Krishna who sees the submission, and gradually, slowly, step by step, Krishna takes charge of that devotee and gradually reduces their affinity for fruitive work and gradually reduces their involvement in the modes of nature, because he's already beyond both. No guna, no karma with Lord Narayan or the personality of Godhead. That's him. He gives knowledge and he takes away. Now he may take away quickly. He doesn't have to do anything by our decree. But at least he makes this commitment to the devotee. So all we have to do is just remain committed to him. That's all. And go on with our process of hearing and chanting. It's not mechanical, but it's devotional. It's a relationship. And that's the picture here. That's Lord Narayan coming to rejuvenate devotional service. This is done by the process of the personality of Godhead giving the principles of transcendence. You see the reference, 6th canto, chapter 3. You recognize the painting. This is the Yamadutas, after they were checked by the Vishnu Dutas, when they were going to take Ajamila to the abode of Yamaraj. And the Vishnu Duta said, stop. And they gave him a Dharma exam, and they failed. So you go back to Yamaraj and you do your homework. Learn what are the principles by which someone should be punished and someone is not to be punished. So there they are, going back to Yamaraj and saying, what happened? Looks to us like there's two supremes. You're supreme, but there's somebody else that stopped us. We never had that happen. Who stops death? And they stopped us. So what's going on? Please explain. And he explained in this section, the principles of Dharma are established by Bhagavan, Bhagavat Pranitam, directly, Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. And it says here, the note to read from the purport of that verse, but I don't have the verse. Someone could look up the verse on your magical handheld device that has everything in it. So when we submit ourselves to the Supreme Lord through the medium of the instructions that he gives, it's not just the instructions, it's to him. And to him means in obedience to his instructions. I mean, Prabhupada says this hundreds of times. Religion means laws of God. And religious person follows the laws of God. You can't be religious without following the laws of God. Did you find it? Herein it is stated that the real religious principle is that which is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That principle is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. One should give up all other duties and surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the real religious principle everyone should follow. Even though one follows Vedic scriptures, one may not know this transcendental principle, for it is not known to everyone. To say nothing of human beings, even the demigods in the upper planetary systems are unaware of it. This transcendental religious principle must be understood from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or from his special representative, as stated in the next verses. So, Krishna comes. Kunti is saying he comes to restore that which is lost. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service. I mean, Krishna may not come before us and say, here I am. He may do that. He may not do that. But he comes before us in his personal presence. We can feel his personal presence. And he sends representatives. That's also his personal presence. And it's real. It's palpable. One can feel Krishna's presence in that way. Krishna may reserve, one of the things that, because I've been studying it, I'll express it, to this question that was asked by Yudhisthira to Krishna. He explains, my worship is not easy, because people have their wants, and their wants may not come so quickly. And so they may abandon my worship and go do something where results come quickly. So, in other words, without that commitment to him, they go here and there. And it doesn't happen too much, but it happens. And when one stays committed to Krishna, Krishna commits to that person who stays committed. And he gradually takes away and gradually gives everything. Specifically, he gives himself. With himself comes everything, his potencies, his opulences, his strength, spiritual strength, everything that one requires for a life of happiness and a life of perfection. He gives everything. Everything inauspicious he takes, and everything auspicious he gives. Gradually, according to one's capacity to receive and one's eagerness to receive. Here's the 9 processes. We'll go through it quickly. Shravanam, Maharaj Parikshit, Kirtanam, Shukadeva Goswami, Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj, despite constant tortures from Hiranyakashipu, Padasevanam, standard as the goddess of fortune, deity worship, Prithu Maharaj, Bandhanam, Akrura. Akrura's offering prayers when he was traveling to Vrindavan to see Krishna. It's nice. Read that section. It's a really nice section. Prayers and prayers and prayers. And in anticipation of meeting Krishna, he sees Krishna's imprint in the soft sand of Vrindavan, and he falls out of the chariot and rolls in the dust. He loses it, just seeing Krishna's footprint from the emotion created by these wonderful prayers. Dasyam, of course there's others, but the supermost is Hanuman. And friend, that's Arjuna, through all the tribulations, and Atmanivedana, Bali Maharaj. despite Shukracharya was opposing his surrender. Anyway, these are standard. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a comment. We're going to end with this. It's almost done. This is the real reason for the Lord's appearance. First, there is ignorance. That's the ostrich. And then desire. So ignorance comes first. Then comes ignorant desire. And then action. Karma bihi. You come to engage those suffering due to actions arising from material desires, which are due to ignorance, in actions for attaining prema. It's really nice. It's very, very clear. The destruction of suffering is incidental, because it is said in the next verse that the result of hearing about the Lord is seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. By seeing the Lord, one attains prema. Here's another image that illustrates the same thing. This is a very simple understanding that contrasts Vaishnavism with Buddhism. You know a little bit about Buddhism? Nothing. Nothing. Okay. Ask any Buddhist that's worth 2 cents and ask them the question, what's the root cause of suffering? Desire. And then what to do? Become free from desire. You don't want to suffer? Become free from desire. How do you become free from desire? 2 things. 1, live a life of goodness, starting with nonviolence, compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness, mode of goodness. Frame your life in the mode of goodness, starting with nonviolence, ahimsa. And mindfulness. Isn't it a buzz? Where does a buzz come from? It comes from Buddhism. I can elaborate, but I won't. It's become, there's a. I was visiting the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, and I passed, to get to the university, passed down the downtown streets, and there's this big sign, Home of the Mindful Burger. Right? You've seen the place? No. There's such a place. Mindful manager, mindfulness. I was writing it in, visiting it Atlanta not too long ago, and they have a trained plane. You get on, when you arrive in your arrival gate, you have to get on a train that takes you to the main terminal where you can get your luggage. They call it the train plane. So I got on the train plane, and this young fellow said, stood next to me purposefully and said, are you a monk? And I could have said something cute, but I said, yeah. Not only am I a monk, but I've been a monk for 55 years. Ooh. A kid, 20s. And he said, can you give me some advice on how I can become more mindful? So I said, a few things, because I can't say too much on a train. I said, sound. I said, you practice Buddhism, right? He said, yeah. I said, in Buddhism, in Buddhist temples, they have a gong, right? And they have this big brass thing, and you hit the big brass thing with a mallet, and it helps you concentrate, or it helps your mindfulness, right? Yeah. So imagine if that sound was a spiritual sound and not just a gong. Would it help your concentration, your mindfulness? He said, I don't know, I haven't experienced it. So in Buddhism, you have some mantras, right? Yeah. So if those mantras were entirely 100% of a spiritual nature, then you're going to enhance your mindfulness better than with a gong or any other kind of meditation that you do. Mindfulness means bringing the mind to one place. So try spiritual sound. And if you want one, here's one. Say after me. Say, I want to learn about this. Okay. I didn't have an invitation card to the temple. I didn't have some giveaway thing. But, you've heard of Hare Krishna, so that's who I am. I'm a Hare Krishna guy. You can find, there's a local temple I'm going to be visiting, and you can look us up. Maybe I'll see you there at the temple on Sunday or something. I want to look into this. So it's just, what is this young fellow, and what do people know what mindfulness is? So the purpose of the mindfulness is, this I learned from Jiva Goswami, one of my heroes. So Jiva Goswami writes in Tattva Sandarbha that one of the core teachings of Buddhism is consciousness is kshanik vijnanavad. Kshanik is a Sanskrit term that means less than a moment. If you read in the third canto, Bhagavatam, there's a whole chapter, calculation of time by the atom. And kshanik is one of the divisions that's less than a second, like the blink of an eye. That's how it's sometimes, less than a second, kshanik. And vijnana is their terminology for consciousness, and vada is doctrine. So Jiva Goswami writes, according to Buddha's teachings, like besides mindfulness, what is consciousness? It's the moment. It's a kshanik. It's less than a second, because the past is gone, the future hasn't happened. All there is the moment. So mindfulness technically is kshanik vijnanavad. Be conscious, be conscious, be conscious, be conscious in that kshanik, less than a second moment. And where's the train going when you get on that train? It's go beyond the moment. Ooh, what's that? Nirvana. What's nirvana? Cessation of material existence. Literally, nirvana, cessation of material existence. So what's there? Nothing. So we just say voidism. But that's what voidism is. This went on the other side of the moment. What's there? Nothing. Consciousness is moment to moment, and on the other side of consciousness is nothing. And that's where the train is going. Then you're desireless. But there's no such thing, because desire is of the soul. So now we'll go back to what it says here. The top part seems to be cut off. But the root cause is not desire, the root cause is ignorance. And then ignorance impacts desire, so you get ignorant desire. When you have ignorant desire, you get ignorant activity. When you get ignorant activity, you get suffering. What's the solution? Get rid of that ignorance. Worship Vishnu. And he'll help you. You can't do it on your own, but he'll help you become free from ignorance. And what do you have instead of ignorance? You have knowledge. But what kind of knowledge? Knowledge of what's the source of everything. And what's my relationship with that source of everything? He goes on. Here's the fruitive activity. And here's the alternative, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's the end of this evening's discussion. Queen Kunti's prayers. Different persons have different ideas of why Krishna appears. It's not that the other ones are not right. Vishwanath just says this is the real reason. He wants to free people from their unnecessary suffering and bring them to the position of prema. So he comes, and sometimes sends representatives, and sometimes he comes as Lord Chaitanya. Okay, so any discussion? I hope you had a nice time hearing Queen Kunti's prayers. It's just a few of them. There's more. Somehow when speaking like this, my runny nose stops. As soon as I stop speaking, I'm sure it's going to have to blow my nose again a bunch of times. It'll go away. The body will go away. Yes?
So the Supreme Lord, he comes to us. The Supreme Lord, he comes to us, with the intent of pulling us out of the materialism.
Yes.
And out of his causeless mercy, he never leaves us alone, no matter where we go, which form of life we are in. And I was thinking the same mood is, Prabhupada did that, and his representatives continue to do that. But the tendency to see something, to mistake him as an ordinary, or the teachings as ordinary, or his representatives, why is that?
Why?
Why is that happening?
Conditioning. We're covered. Dark, dark, dark. Why do you see dark? Because we're covered. The light hasn't entered in. We're conditioned. And there may be times when there's lighter, and then wait a while and it gets darker again. It's just, the unsteady position of bhakti. Even when bhakti becomes awakened, it's unsteady. Why is it unsteady? Long-standing conditioning. Maya is very strong. We can't see. We accept what is not to be done as what is to be done. What is to be done as what is not to be done. It just that's the nature of Maya, and we're strongly conditioned by Maya. She doesn't let go very easily. There's other ways of answering that. You want to give a different way of answering that? You happy with that one? No? You're okay? Okay. Shri Radhika.
Guru Maharaj, hearing this section from you in different places and times, it's just, it's startling how exalted Queen Kunti is. And there's this portion of her life in her younger days that I'm wondering how to understand that or reconcile that with the rest of, her devotional character. So when she lets go of her first child, a child that is totally helpless, and there is no guarantee that this completely dependent living entity will make it alive, on the other side. Instead, is it that her devotion matures as time moves on? Or is it one of those
It's one of
Krishna?
those. It's one of those. Divinely inspired misconduct for the purpose of Krishna's Leela.
Okay.
It goes completely against
Yeah.
motherhood.
Yeah.
Even animals can't do that.
Yeah.
They'll protect their young. But she did what she did. And divinely inspired for Leela purposes. It worked. I mean, Krishna's plan always works. Down to Krishna instructing Arjuna to kill Karna when he is fixing his broken chariot wheel. And Karna, hearing Krishna speak these words to Krishna, says, "What kind of dharma follower are you?" Blah, 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 blah. And Krishna says, "How can you speak like this? What you did knowingly, the Pandavas were cheated out of their kingdom. Knowingly, when Draupadi was being defiled, you said nothing. You were behind it. You liked it, and et cetera, et cetera. You're getting yours. As you did with others, you're getting yours. This is your deserve." Arjuna finished him, and Arjuna finished him according to Krishna's desire. So, I mean, they can have different endings to Karna's life, but it was part of the drama.
Okay.
And on the anyway, it's Mahabharata's very interesting. Karna was, in one sense, was virtuous. Virtuous in the sense that he was warned by the sun god. Indra is going to come and ask you for your armor. Beware. And Indra came disguised as a Brahmin, and he knew who it was, and he cut off that armor so he could be killed. And then Indra said, "Wow." I mean, didn't say, "Well, wow." What you did is not human. A human being can't do what you just did. You're a very noble, exalted personality. Ask me for any benediction, whatever you like, it's yours. And he asked, "I want your Shakti weapon. Your Shakti weapon that can destroy any enemy." And I got my number one enemy. So he gave it to him. On a condition, not you can't use it against Arjuna, his son, on the condition that you can use it only once, and after you use it, it comes back to me. So the plan was to use it against Arjuna, but he didn't. He used it against Gotak Chat, how do you say his name? Yeah, him, you know him. So that was it. So, it's intrigue and interesting getting some benediction from the material. So if you want something material, you're going to get some problems. Supposing you don't want something material, what do you get? If you're a Buddhist, you get nothing. And if you're a devotee, you get Krishna. Krishna gives himself. So that's the lesson. And he's just Krishna imparting lessons in ways that Krishna doesn't need our approval to impart lessons the way he imparts lessons. We wouldn't do it that way. Have Kunti send her firstborn child in a basket. And she did it. No, she had her external thought process going, but this goes completely against motherhood.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Krishna.
So, various paths of spiritual practice, whether it is Sankhya or yoga or mindful, some methodology, whatever it is. All of them, I'm assuming they all have the desire for destruction of suffering as well.
Yes.
But in this bhakti practice, like what is written there, the destruction of suffering is incidental. And the what it is bringing about is ultimately prema. And so it looks like, the suffering is, end of suffering is not at all, it's like a side benefit. It doesn't matter.
It's incidental.
It doesn't even matter, right?
Well, it matters, but it's incidental. It's just not where the focus goes.
And unless one comes to that position of personal worship of the Lord, there is no way of developing this ultimate prema.
Yeah.
There is no other method is going to do it.
You got the message.
So, this is interesting here. It said that the result, the destruction of suffering is incidental.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, Queen Kunti, this is
Full of thoughtful devotees. I'm sure that many nice topics are going to get churned here. Go ahead.
Good Maharaj. So thank you first of all for covering topics in Queen Kunti. It's been extremely interesting, and
Welcome.
it strikes me as someone who is a very, very special personality. As a mother, as an aunt, she also knows Krishna. Krishna's obviously given her so much more knowledge about who he is. She's able to, in instances of, beating Yoga Maya and being able to recognize who Krishna really is.
Yeah.
And she's offering these wonderful prayers. Would you be able to summarize what her role is? Just taking a step back, taking an overall perspective of her role in this whole pastime of Krishna, to make it easier for us to understand who she really is and what's her objective in terms of the role that she plays in multiple ways.
Well, there's multiple roles, not just one. So I'll list some of them that I particularly appreciate. One of them is a wonderful example, not the only, but a wonderful emblem of humility. And in that position of humility, she can look at other devotees, other pure devotees, and express appreciations of how they are recipients of Krishna's mercy in very special ways, very special ways, very special ways. She's helping us to have their specialness in relation to Krishna revealed by her. It's a role, a function. It's not backpatting or something. She's just expressing her heart in all of this. And in her heart is this profound appreciation for those who are dear to Krishna. And she knows in ways in which they are dear to Krishna and Krishna is dear to them. So and I feel that's a very important function that she has. In these verses coming up, it was touched on earlier, but now she's going to magnify her appreciation of Mother Yasoda. And her appreciation of Mother Yasoda is, again, I don't understand. But she doesn't understand, but she understands. That's her humility. But the super exaltedness, that's because this is first canto. And in the first canto, we're getting a glimpse of 10th canto through Kunti's eyes or her words. I don't understand. And she, describes, because it was already touched on, but you who are fear by fear personified are afraid of the rope in Mother Yasoda's hands, or the stick in Mother Yasoda's hands, and you cry. And it's not fake tears. It's not, okay, now I'm supposed to cry, boo-hoo. You're afraid. So she's disclosing some truths about, that's a function. She's disclosing truths about Krishna from the position that's not Mother Yasoda, but it's like an acharya telling us things about Krishna, that one who understands the Aishvarya feature of Krishna, and at the same time something of the Madhurya feature of Krishna. She's performing a function like guru. Because Krishna is her nephew, her brother's son, Krishna treats her with great respect. He comes in the morning and touches her feet. And she knows who he is. So she's demonstrating the conflicting emotions of one who's in such a relationship, but she knows he's the personality of Godhead and he's touching my feet with great respect. So she's displaying that dimension or feature of loving exchange with Krishna. That's one of the, so many different loving exchanges. And she's one of the so many different ones. It just helps to make the big picture all the more glorious. I'm looking at this mirror on the wall. It's got all these things coming out of the mirror in little round bulbs, and so they're different and different and different. She's one of the different features of Krishna's loving dealing. She has parental affection for Krishna as the aunt, and at the same time, so she's displaying for us that feature of an aspect of love for Krishna that's part of the totality of the big picture of Krishna's loving dealings when he comes to this world and engages with his devotees. Nice question. You got something? No? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm with the cousin. It's okay.
Thank you so much, Kamaraj. This is really beautiful, particularly the aspect of Krishna's unimaginable kindness and mercy to be with us. Kamaraj, I'm just seeing this humility. It's almost like inversely proportional to one's exaltedness and the purity. As you were explaining, Queen Kunti was able to understand, but at the same time saying, I'm not able to understand. I'm just thinking for my case, I feel humble when I see some faults or whatever and say, oh gee, how much I have, so better I become humble. But for Queen Kunti or Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, I don't think that's the case. So just want to hear from you about the kind of humility that they are feeling.
Well, it's different. Each living entity has a particular relationship, and they're going to manifest that relationship in ways that matches their personality. So it's different. How she manifests and how another one, and how another one, and how another one. It's a principle. Your question specifically is, you want to hear about how they manifest, and my response is, it's going to be different for everyone. There's a long list of everyone's that have very intimate relationships with Krishna. She has hers. Krishna Das Kaviraj has his, and so forth. Elevated souls have a mood. I mean, while she's feeling not qualified, on the other hand, here she is, standing before Krishna in his chariot. He's ready to go off to Dwarka. And she does everything but say, please don't go to Dwarka, please don't leave. Now what happens after she has these nice prayers to Krishna, Yudhisthira says, stay longer, and he stays longer. Because of Yudhisthira. So, but it's not, she's humble and he's not humble. They just have a different way of being who they are. So I would say, in response to your question, you want to hear more about it, just allow that in the spiritual dimension, perfection has its variety. And there's certain hallmark characteristics, and there's going to be diversity amongst those hallmark characteristics. Humility is one. Diversity, unity and diversity. Okay. I want to end. We'll take one last question. Here comes the microphone.
She'll be asking in Telugu.
Telugu.
I'll translate.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. పుట్టుట సుఖము, గిట్టుట దుఃఖము, పొడమిపై పుట్టి పుట్టడు దుఃఖము మారుచు, పుట్టలేను గిట్టలేను పుట్టగతులేను.
So there is a happiness there when we take birth. Next. తెలుగు చెప్పండి నాకు హిందీ రాదు నా Okay. So the question is, there is happiness when there is a birth, and then there is unhappiness when there is a death, and in between there is happiness and distress. So why one should go through this birth and death? I mean, birth thing.
Yeah. End it. The answer is ignorance. Translate. Did she understood? Okay. We saw this here. There it is. It's ignorance. And from ignorance comes ignorant desire. Doesn't have to be. But why? Ignorance. Ignorant desire, ignorant activity. Suffering. Why? Ignorance. Here's a question for you. Listen. What's the original ignorance? Ignorance number one is what? Ignoring Krishna. Remedy. Turn towards Krishna. %, 50%, 75%, 100%. No more birth and death. No more. Why? Ignorance. Cure? Knowledge, not just information, but the knowledge that comes from devotional service. Is that all right? You can explain to her later. Srila Prabhupada ki